Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today.
Hmm.
All about exploring where great ideas come from.
Oh,
And to get to the bottom of this, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Stephen Johnson's TED Talk on this very subject.
sounds good.
So, I don't know about you, but I always sort of pictured big ideas as these like light bulb moments.
Right.
And Johnson actually challenges this whole notion.
Yeah, the classic eureka moment.
Right.
It's a very appealing image,
Yeah.
but I think that's actually a really misleading metaphor for where good ideas come from.
So, what's a better way to think about it then?
Well, the core argument is that ideas are less about these sudden flashes of insight and more about the slow process of connecting things.
So it's like forming networks in the brain.
Exactly, like building those neural pathways.
It's not just one light bulb going off. It's
Oh,
like
no.
a whole bunch slowly connecting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have had that experience where we have an idea and it feels like it just came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is it's probably been brewing for a while.
Like simmering under the surface.
Exactly. All these different influences, experiences, things, you've read conversations.
Right.
They're all sort of bumping around in your subconscious.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
finally,
And then they click.
that's when you get that aha moment.
It's like, oh, that makes sense now. I see how all
Well,
these things
yeah.
connect.
And Johnson uses a really interesting historical example to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah.
The 17th century English coffee houses
Yeah.
and how they connect to the Enlightenment.
Yeah, the coffee houses.
Yeah. So, back then people were drinking alcohol pretty much all day long.
Really, all day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was the drink of choice, and then suddenly coffee and tea start to become popular.
I can only imagine how that affected people's
Right.
productivity.
Yeah, well, it turns out it had a dramatic effect on mental clarity.
So it was like this mass mental upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. And the impact was pretty remarkable.
So this period saw like a ton of new ideas, right?
Yeah, it's considered the Age of Enlightenment, and you had all these incredible breakthroughs in science, philosophy, politics.
Wow. So it wasn't just about the caffeine boost, though.
Right, it was the social dynamics of the coffee houses themselves.
Okay, so what was so special about these places?
Well, imagine you walk into this bustling coffee house.
Okay.
Scientists are arguing with poets. Merchants are debating philosophy with politicians.
It's like a real mix of people.
Exactly, and that's the key. They were hubs for these liquid networks, as Johnson calls them.
Liquid networks, I like that.
Yeah, spaces where ideas can flow freely and collide in unexpected ways.
And that's how innovation happens, right?
Precisely, you never know what spark might ignite when you bring different perspectives together.
And that's what we're still trying to do today, right? Create those spaces for people to connect and collaborate.
Absolutely, whether it's a co-working space, an online forum, or even just a casual gathering with friends.
It's all about those liquid networks.
Exactly, fostering those environments where ideas can mix and mingle.
So we've got the coffee house effect, but Johnson also talks about this fascinating invention called the neo-nurture incubator.
Yeah, that's a great example of how innovation doesn't always have to be about creating something totally new from scratch.
Right.
This incubator was designed for developing countries
Okay.
where access to traditional incubators is limited.
And I get this. It's made entirely from car parts.
Yeah, isn't that
They're
amazing?
just so ingenious.
Yeah, it really challenges us to think about what resources we might have that we could be overlooking.
What car parts do we have lying around?
Exactly. It's about looking at things with fresh eyes.
Right. And seeing potential where we didn't see it before.
And that's what innovation is all about, right?
It really is.
So you never know where that next great idea might come from.
It could be hiding in plain sight.
Absolutely.
Like a car part saving a baby's life. Who would have thought?
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so this is all super fascinating, but there's one more concept from Johnson that I really want to dig into,
Okay.
and that is the slow hunch.
Ah, yes, the slow hunt.
I feel like this is such a key part of the creative process, but we often overlook it.
Yeah, we tend to focus on those eureka moments.
Right.
But slow hunches are those intriguing thoughts or questions that kind of linger in the back of your mind. They
Right.
haven't fully formed yet, but they're there.
Like they're waiting for the right connection to turn into something bigger.
Exactly. And Johnson argues that those hunches can be incredibly valuable.
It makes me think of Darwin and his theory of natural selection.
That's a perfect example.
It wasn't a sudden epiphany for him.
No, it evolved over many years of observation, research, and consideration.
It's like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great ideas often take time to develop,
To connect with other ideas.
to be tested and refined.
It's not always about that immediate eureka moment.
Right. And I think that's a really important message for all of us.
Because it means we don't have to wait for a flash of brilliance to start working on something.
Exactly. We can cultivate those slow hunches, those little seeds of inspiration, and see where they lead.
This is so insightful.
Glad you're enjoying it.
I am. I really am. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
What do you say we take a break and come back to discuss some other fascinating examples?
Sounds good.
Like the origin story of GPS.
Oh, yeah, that one's a great story.
Okay, we'll be back in a bit.
Okay, so let's talk about GPS.
Yeah, the GPS story.
It's a perfect example of how this, random event can spark an idea.
And then that idea changes the world.
Yeah, totally. So it all starts back in 1957.
Okay.
Cold War. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik.
Oh, yeah, the first satellite to orbit Earth.
Exactly. And the U.S. is, freaking out.
I bet.
Total panic. Right? This new technology, nobody knows what it means.
It must have felt like something out of science fiction.
Yeah, totally. So at this place called the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory,
Okay.
there's this group of scientists. They're all gathered, just trying to figure out what Sputnik means,
Right.
what the impact is going to be. And two of these guys are these young physicists, Gear and Weifenbach. And they're just kind of chatting about Sputnik signals.
So they weren't even trying to invent a new navigation system or anything.
Yeah, not at all. Just pure curiosity.
Hmm.
And one of them asks, hey, has anyone actually tried listening to what this thing is transmitting?
Makes you wonder what kind of signal is it sending back.
Right. And as luck would have it, Weifenbach had this receiver in his office.
No way.
Yeah, that could potentially pick up Sputnik's signal.
So did it work?
Oh, yeah, they tinkered with it a bit, and boom, loud and clear.
Wow.
They start recording all these blips and beeps,
Yeah.
noting the time and the frequency.
Like they're eavesdropping on a secret conversation from space?
Right, and as they're analyzing the data, they notice these tiny variations in the frequency.
Okay.
The Doppler effect
Yeah.
in action.
Right, the Doppler effect.
Yeah, like when a siren passes by and the pitch changes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Same principle here. The frequency shifts as the satellite moves.
So at this point, they haven't even connected this to GPS, right?
No, not yet.
Mhm.
This is where the slow hunch comes in. At first, they're just excited that they can track Sputnik's location based on these frequency shifts.
Wow.
But then it hits them. If they can track Sputnik, couldn't they do the reverse? Use a network of satellites?
To pinpoint a location on Earth.
Exactly. There's the seed of GPS.
Wow, that's amazing.
But of course, it takes a while for that seed to grow into what we know as GPS today.
Right.
Their boss, Frank McClure, gets wind of this little side project.
Uh-oh.
And he sees the potential military applications.
For navigating submarines?
Exactly. Subs are underwater, can't use traditional methods.
Right.
So this satellite system could provide precise location data no matter what.
Genius.
So the government invests in research and development, and over time...
GPS is born.
Exactly.
Huh, that's incredible. It all started with a couple of physicists messing around during their lunch break.
And a healthy dose of curiosity.
That's the key, isn't it?
Totally. It just goes to show you never know where the next big idea might come from.
Absolutely. So we've got the coffee house effect.
No.
We've got the neo-nurture incubator. And now the origin story of GPS.
All pointing to this idea that innovation often comes from unexpected places.
And that those slow hunches can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, we just need to be open to them and willing to explore them.
So what do you say we take a break?
Yeah.
And come back to discuss how we can apply these principles in our own lives?
Sounds good.
I mean, you think about how many of those, little moments in conversations, those slow hunches, have led to some pretty big things.
Right. It really makes you wonder, what else is out there?
What ideas are we missing?
Yeah. What are people thinking about right now that could change the world?
And it's not just limited to technology either, right?
Well, definitely.
These principles apply to anything.
Totally. Art, business, social change, even our personal lives.
What if you're having one of those moments where there's a thought or question in your head and you just can't shake it? What if that's a slow hunch trying to make itself known?
Yeah, instead of ignoring it, what if you actually gave it some space?
Gave it room to breathe, to connect with other ideas.
Exactly.
It's like planting a seed. You have to nurture it, give it time to grow.
Right. Create the right environment for it to flourish.
And sometimes those tiny seeds turn into amazing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So be open to those possibilities.
So how can we actually do that? How can we cultivate those slow hunches, those little seeds of inspiration?
Well, one thing is just paying attention to those thoughts, even if they seem random or insignificant.
Okay.
Write them down. Record a voice memo.
Yeah.
Just take a moment to reflect on them.
It's like creating a little incubator for your ideas.
Yeah, give them a safe space to develop.
I like that.
And don't be afraid to share them with others.
Right. Talk to people, get different perspectives.
Exactly. You never know how someone else might see your idea or help you make connections.
It's all about creating those liquid networks.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if an idea doesn't seem useful right away, don't just toss it aside.
Right. Sometimes those are the ideas that end up being the most valuable.
Yeah. They just need time to develop to connect with other ideas.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What seemingly small or random idea are you carrying around? What could it become if you nurtured it, shared it, and allowed it to connect with other ideas?
That's a great question to think about.
Maybe it's the seed of something truly extraordinary, something that could change your life or even the world.
Keep those slow hunches close, nurture them, and see where they lead you. You never know what incredible things might emerge.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks everyone.